Alright. What's up, everybody? We are back with some of the best games of StarCraft 2, and this one is, of course, from the DreamHack Masters Atlanta EU Regionals tournament replay pack, which didn't drop until much later, yet had so many bangers in it. Down here in the bottom right side, we've got Serral, and in the top left, of course, his rival, the young gun, the comeback kid, Reynor. Reynor still has a losing record to Serral overall. But keep in mind, a lot of that was from 2017, 2018, when Serral was ascending to be one of the greats of the game, and Reynor was still lagging behind him a little bit there. This is, of course, the upper bracket finals. Both players have cleaved their way through the regional brackets. Whoever wins this is guaranteed top 2 in the tournament. Both players, of course, locked into the top 3 placement. But the player who loses will have to also play the losers bracket, lower bracket finals, to rematch with the other opponent. So no, you know, there's a decent chance we get to see the Serral Reynor best of 5 here into a rematch. We know that Reynor takes more risks, plays a bit more fluid, and the big reason he's been dominating, well, not dominating, but the times where he has beaten Serral, especially the ones where he's beaten him convincingly in this year, it's been often based off of fake outs. He does a lot of roach move outs and makes it look like it's a big scary attack, and he actually doesn't commit that much to it. Serral got caught out overreacting a bunch of times. I think he's so used to that now that he is a little bit better. But just to give you guys the stats, in terms of series, it's still only 15 wins for Reynor, or about 15 wins for him, 24 for Serral at the time of me casting this after the fact. So that is still a very, very good win rate for Serral overall. But of course, there have been periods where in the biggest tournaments, Reynor does beat Serral a bunch of times in a row. And so often we get, you know, pet players who only watch the biggest tournaments get the misconception that Reynor just plays Serral like a fiddle. The thing is, Serral is much better at planning his builds out than Reynor. He often gets free wins versus him because he knows, you know, Reynor's habits and picks perfect build orders. The problem is that Reynor has a much tougher mentality, I would argue. It's weird to say anyone has a tougher mentality than Serral, but I truly believe that he does not get thrown off when things don't go his way, whereas I think Serral does get a little bit tilted and distracted when he is playing against Reynor. Now, Reynor already winning a Zergling duel over here on this side of the map. He's going to be able to also have the Ling speed finishing just a few seconds faster, almost gets that Ling kill, but not quite. Now, both players open very standard into 3 hatch. Serral just placing his Evo chamber in a slightly more optimal position there. His first one, he did not like that positioning. And both players don't seem to be committing to mass Zergling. You see a few more Zerglings for Serral, but he's keeping them fully defensive. Reynor with only a single Baneling there. Now Serral runs in. He says, okay, I don't want to sacrifice 2 Lings just yet. And he sees that there's no lair. Meanwhile, Reynor runs in as well. Both players getting scouts off as the Roach Horn goes down at the front and a Queen plugs the wall. There's not going to be any more scouting. But Reynor, if he can keep this alive a bit longer, does give him some information. He's going melee. Okay, Reynor says it's a big map. It's hard to kill you. I'm going to try and go 3 base upgraded Zerglings and Mutas. He's already got a second gas on the way, so expect that lair to start up the moment he hits 100 gas here. He's waiting for it. He needs that lair to go because Muta tech is going to need to be quick behind the +1. Otherwise, Roach Bane, especially from Serral, could cause him big troubles. Now, if Serral just hits a giant Roach Bane attack, that's kind of worst case scenario for Reynor. It could work out if Reynor gets some good Ling skirmishes, finds some correct engagements. But if Serral is to hit just a giant attack, it would do well. Problem is, Serral's going very late Roach Horn lair, and he's actually hiding his Roach Horn. So I think Serral wants to keep Reynor guessing about whether he's going Mutas. And Reynor's done the same thing in that he's hidden his Roach Horn. Oh, wait, no, he hasn't. He's actually going Mutas. Now, can Serral pick them up on that? He sees 4 gases, but he's on 4 gases as well himself. So I don't think this gives anything away. It's the fact that there's no Roach Horn, which should make Serral realize what's up. Now, if you're up against this, as Serral, you want to basically just make sure you can get some Queens up to defend and see if you can hang on. He's running his drones away already. Serral is actually very afraid of this giant Ling Bane attack. He's run all of his drones off this base. I think he needs more Queens up here, but he's only got 3 Queens in total. 7 Roaches, a bunch of Banelings coming in. That Queen's not perfect at the wall. Oh no, a blunder by Serral. Ling splitting into all 3 bases. Looks like the Banelings at the front have been defended. These 2 Queens putting up a valiant defense. Meanwhile, in the natural, looks like the drones are surviving. Those Queens at the third somehow are still alive. Serral with a spectacular hold. The Queen misplaced in the wall, a hero-esque maneuver, lets in Reynor's Zerglings, and yet he defends it just fine. Oh, transfuse, he's got the energy! Gets the energy just in time! That Queen, she gets a band-aid on her booty and does survive that one. Ling's going to go down the south side here as well right now. Going to try and rotate to see what they can do. Spire's on the way as well as +2 melee. Units lost tab is in favor of Serral, who's still up 7 workers here, but a few more Ling's going to come around here. Roaches are nearby. Those drones are going to have to fight, and they will. One drone goes down. Not too bad. Serral immediately back to mining. Did miss putting one worker on gas. The question I have for Serral is, number one, does he realize what's happening with the mutas? And number two, can he drone up enough, get some spores down in time to deal with it? He's building 2 more queens and 7 overlords. A big supply block for Serral here. Reynor's keeping him busy. Reynor is a dirty boy. And oh, looks like a Baneling got in there and damaged a lot of those. 5 drones getting one-tapped by those Zerglings. Oh, delicious maneuver. Overseer comes in, sees that Spire, finishing great scouting in the midst of the chaos here for Serral. But Serral really wishes that he was up at 70 workers right now. And he's actually going to try and go Spire himself. He's going to try and play Corruptors out of this. He could go Mutas as well, but usually Roach Corruptor is his favored way of playing. And remember that Serral, even when he beat Reynor at Katowice, I've told this story a few times, the World Championship, I ran into him after he won that World Championship match, and I was making fun of him, kind of just joking around, just ribbing him a little bit about losing the game where he went Corruptors versus Reynor's Mutas. And he said, you know, he's like, dude, if I just didn't go for an all-in with the Corruptors, just use them to defend, to get to Hive Tech, it would have worked out. And that was a real game changer in my mind, because I always think of Corruptors as sort of an all-in unit. You do one big Roach Corruptor timing and try to kill the Muta player. But Serral, I think, is happy to just add Corruptors to support his queens, try and defend against the Mutas, and then work his way up to Hive Tech. The problem for him now is, of course, he can't secure a 4th very easily. The Mutas would be able to pick it off. And Reynor, on the other hand, has that 4th up. He's on 75 workers. 10 Corruptors are on the way for Serral. Will he get attack or armor upgrades on those? Corruptors, of course, are very buff. Part of the reason they counter Mutas so badly is Mutas, you can see, do 9 base damage. And the way their bounce works is their attack bounces twice. So it does 33%, 1/3 damage to each of the next 2 targets. So 9 damage, then 3 damage, then 1 damage. The problem is each one of those is affected by armor. Corruptors have 2 base armor, which means that second bounce is doing 1 damage. The third bounce is doing half the damage, which is the minimum any damage can be done in the game of StarCraft. Massling coming forward on the north, but we've got also Mutas and a Baneling run by setting up on that side. It looks like Serral is going to go for the Roach Corruptor all in again. Well, I'll be damned. He says, screw it. I'm just going to try and kill you with this. A Corruptor is getting tagged there. It does go down, but these other Corruptors will come back. And remember, Corruptors are so mobile now versus the Mutas. Look at that. They scoot and shoot. They scoot and shoot. So much damage going down on Reynor's Mutalisks. He's going to try and answer with the Lings. The Queens, though, solid in that mineral line, especially with that one Baneling there, but he's got his own Ling Bane going in. That is a disaster. The Roaches running in for Serral. They're going to start doing big damage. The Baneling's going after the drones. Serral's drones! A very quick mineral walk. Gets out of the natural, but his main's already been ransacked. +2 melee Zerglings are off the chain, man. They're doing so much damage. The Corruptors gunning down the Mutalisks. They can also kill these Overlords as well, even without unzipping their fly. They're going to be able to supply block Reynor. The Overlord's caught out is a disaster. He might have been able to do this, but I think that supply block's what's going to actually kill him. This base is taking damage up there. The third base of Reynor falls. His 4th is very exposed, along with about 40 workers on that northern base. Lings down here as well. There's still Lings in the main, finally getting clean up. But of course, Serral is large and in charge right now. That Roach gets chased down. It looks like this is very good for Serral. If he can kill all these drones, that's massive. Up to 20 workers killed. And look at this. The Mutas do catch the reinforce. Reynor does still have the mobility advantage. Keep that in mind. And he thinks he has enough Zerglings to deal with this. +2 melee Zerglings. They'll get 2 shot by the Roaches, but if they can get a full surround, they can tear the Roaches down pretty easily as well. Massling, mass Roach production on both sides. A new hatchery. Reynor just keeps on trying to get to the next one. The Lings will get a decent engage here. That's a good angle. I think the Lings will clean this fight up. Now, look how quickly those Roaches fall to the +2 melee. Mutas come in, get a few more drones, picking off a few of these rallying units as well. But that is 18 Corruptors, and they will make mincemeat out of these Mutalisks. That is a big problem here for Reynor. The Corruptor's chasing him down right now. Loses a few more Mutalisks. He does end up defending his northern base, so he's got a 3rd up, but it's a very exposed 3rd, and there's more Roaches arriving. Serral's going to push into it. A little bit cavalier there. His Roaches, look how quickly they die to these Zerglings. But, oh my god, Roaches in the natural. The Spinecrawler Forest gives him a whole bunch of tentacles to the face. Just like getting with a bag of dicks to the face. It's not comfortable, but, let's see. Roaches. Okay, I think it's too much. He's broken through the northern base. The 3rd is under threat. And Lings will never get surface area on these Roaches. It just seems like Serral got too much done, especially the Overlord kills. The Corruptors gunning down those Mutas. And Reynor was a little bit greedy. I think Serral realizes this. There's a reason why Serral doesn't just play the macro game against Reynor. It's because Reynor is greedy. I've talked about it so many times over the years. Serral is one of the safest players we've ever known. He always wants to be ready for the next attack. Reynor, on the other hand, wants to make 90 drones and then somehow defend the attack even when he really has no business surviving. But in games like this, Serral once again starts another series in fine form. I feel like he always comes in prepared, and he has this in mind before the series even starts. He says, yep, you're going mutas. I know exactly what I'm going to do to punish you. We've seen him kill him with Nidus Worms, Roach Bane timings, and now he gets him with a Corruptor Roach timing. Serral, yet again, starts his series with a win. All right, well, that was a pretty badass way to start the series for young Serral in the bottom left side. I say young Serral. I can't really call him young anymore. He's such a veteran, such a beast. But a very good timing attack from him. You know, I thought he would second guess himself, but he didn't. He just played very confidently. He knew exactly what was happening and got the read, so well done. Reynor, on the other hand, maybe just a tad too greedy with the Muta Zergling play. He went up to 83 workers and was heading towards 5 bases versus a 3-base Serral. And definitely, if, you know, maybe if his overlords didn't all die at the front and pulled those guys back and could have pumped just a few more lings and mutas during the fight, that could make a difference. Sometimes having like a Spore Crawler or some Queens come forward to help against the Corruptors can help. And other times it's just bypassing the Corruptors. Like if you can realize he's going Corruptors and then go around and base trade rather than fighting them, that can be really nice. The thing is, Serral built 15 Corruptors all at once. He hit it perfectly. So it was like, oh, there's Corruptors here. Oh, they're pushing me. There's already Queens and Roaches coming across the map as well. Like, it was a very decisive push from Serral. And like I said, Serral plans his series fantastically, and he gets free wins a lot of the time. The last time when he got, I think it was like a 4-0 result. Let me look at my stats here. Yeah, it was the King of Battles finals. Reynor 4-0'd Serral. What happened in that series? Well, in Reynor's exact words was, oh, he tried to play like me this series. And no, only I get to play like that. And what he meant was like Serral was doing dirty all-ins, really cheeky cheeses, like crazy build orders. And Reynor 4-0'd Serral. And that was kind of like an embarrassing, almost like, whoa, what? And that was their first big tournament. That was back in, was that May? I think it was, yeah, it was back in May this year. So it was a few months after their Katowice World Championship Grand Finals where Serral's beat him 4-3. Since then, Reynor beat Serral as well 3-1 in the Valencia Regionals playoffs. And then, of course, we had the TSL where Serral beat Reynor 3-2. I mean, the number of 3-2s these guys have is just ridiculous. It's actually insane. Like, they have so many good matches. So that 4-0 and that 3-1, that little double streak there, that was right before Serral took some time off for personal undisclosed reasons, and kind of revamped, I think, his focus and that sort of stuff. So did come back after that and do very well in some other tournaments, but for now, quick third base for Serral. He actually took his a little bit earlier, whereas Reynor goes for the classic 32 third hatchery. 2 more Zerglings on the way for both sides. You want to pressure with 2 Zerglings and see if you can damage that hatchery. If you get a lot of damage on it, then it opens up the chance to do a Ling Bane Flood to just go for the kill. And Reynor is actually very vulnerable to that, because we've talked about him being a bit of a greedy boy. Serral's more prone to building about 12, 14 Zerglings just to defend for safety, not even planning to attack with them. Whereas Reynor will try to skimp on that number if he can. Third Queen is on the way for Serral. That's a bit more of a sign of a defensive play for him. Reynor gets a Zergling kill yet again, and he wins the trade over here. So Reynor really is winning these early little Zergling skirmishes, forces Serral to bring 2 more Lings down, group those up, and he could finally get rid of it. Let's see, this hatchery, it looks like lost, you can see, just compare that progress bar to its hit point bar, you can see it's lost a couple hundred hit points. This one still did lose a bigger chunk of its life as well, so we'll be down about 400-500 hit points when it is completed. Evo Chambers on the way for both sides. Third Queen is coming in for Reynor. It's a little later, and he's built a few more Zerglings, but it doesn't really look like he's being offensive just yet, just chilling at home, both sides. 7 drones on the way for Serral. 4 for Reynor. Reynor drops a Roach Horn and he's hidden it. That makes it look like Reynor wants to either go for a big Roachling Bane attack, or he wants to fake it out and at least show a bunch of surprise Roaches, scare Serral, get that overreaction that we were talking about in the last game. Reynor's going to go around with these Zerglings. Serral's going to come in. Oop. Serral pokes in on the third. Comes in from this right side. He'd love to get in behind the wall, but look at that. Reynor is like, no, no, no. He sees drones popping, though. You see drones rallying out. That alone tells you that your opponent is being a bit more defensive. Now, Reynor, it looks like, is going to just shove with Ling Bane to try and get some actual damage. He's waiting for drones to get on the third, and then he might go in for that. Serral, look at this scouting. We always talk about Serral scouting. My God, he's so good, dude. This Zergling on the top left is control group. This one doesn't even have a control group. That's only being manually controlled by him. And now we see these two Zerglings are on a control group. Reynor down there, he's moving these Lings around. I mean, when's the Baneling morph coming? He's building 6 roaches, so Reynor's going for that fake out maneuver. This is the classic fake out. The Zerglings see it. In the past, Serral has panicked and cancelled upgrades and cancelled layers. He cannot afford to do that. He drops the Spine Crawler. He starts 6 of his own roaches. I think that should be the perfect response. He's already up 5 workers. Notice how Reynor is holding the drone key down behind this. Reynor likes to get the over response, and then he wants to go for his own just big economy lead. Oh man, the Banelings missed out on a potentially very good hit there. Oh, okay, the Baneling does get focused down there, which means this Baneling, all it could do is damage the drones. Doesn't even bother microing at Reynor, so he doesn't even lower those drones' hit points temporarily. These Lings splitting off on that left side. The Spine Crawler is being cancelled right now. The roaches are coming in, but Serral realizes this was a fake, and he's already back into the drones. Oh, Serral handling this with poise. He has been here so many times. I've talked about how many games he's fallen behind against this move. Well, Reynor still finding damage just with these little skirmishes. Oh, the Baneling did kill a bunch of Zerglings on the left, but the Queens come back in. They managed to get that. Can he get a drone or two as well? Good pullback by Serral. Drone survives on 1 hit point. No! The Lings do go back in and get it. At the end of the day, though, Serral may have lost a few more units. He was mining more for longer earlier on, and his tech is way quicker. Yes, there's a lair, a 4th hatchery, overlord speed, and a small worker advantage for Reynor. That sounds amazing, but Serral's got a Spire on the way. He's got roach speed starting. He's also at 65 workers. He's moving out to take a 4th, and he's going to start pumping roaches while waiting for that Spire to finish. The question is, what is the roach count about? Oh, wow, 9 roaches are about to pop. Oh no, Serral's building Queens and Overlord speed. He can't afford that. He's a little bit too far behind on the drones. Otherwise, he might die. Look, he's down 10 roaches, and he's still not building roaches. He's going up to like 4 or 5 queens. I think he cancelled one of those extra queens, which is a good move. He definitely doesn't really need extra queens because he's the guy playing the Spire, not Reynor. Now, Reynor's Overseer does get blocked there. He doesn't get in to see what's going on. Serral very wary that he cannot let this Spire in his natural get scouted. Meanwhile, Overseer scouting on the right side. There's a lot of roaches gathering up. 14 roaches are building for Serral, though. I think he can defend if he keeps on holding the roach key down, but if he starts building mutas right as this roach attack comes from Reynor, he may get overwhelmed. Supply advantage tells you a story. The fact that there is still a 10 roach difference between the players and more roaches in production. Reynor has about double the roach count. He's moving on out. He's not going to bother waiting for +2. He's building drones and a Hydra Den behind this, but look at this. He's forcing Mass Roach Ravager out of Serral right when Serral's Spire's finished, which means Serral can't build mutas. So even just by threatening, this is a winning move for Reynor because he's stopping and delaying Serral from building mutas. He's had to dump his gas into more Roach Ravager. A perfect move from Reynor, but his roach speed is very, very late. It's still 13 seconds away. And that makes it very hard for him to actually commit to this. He's up to 80 workers behind this, though, as Reynor. That's a big economy advantage. As long as he doesn't take a bad fight, he should be all right. And look, he decides not to. He's like, yeah, just back off. Now, this is where 5 Mutalisks probably come out for Serral, but I got to argue that you shouldn't even go for them. He's going to see Hydralisks popping in a moment. Oh, actually, he might not. He's building the mutas. Yeah, the mutas aren't going to be great, man. They'll pick off an Overlord or two, but when the actual fights are happening, he needs to keep morphing Ravagers and try to tech up towards Lurkers as well, potentially. This Overseer trying to come in the main for Reynor. He's going to see what's going on. He's already going Hydra, so he's already got a decent answer to it. He sees a Spire here and does see... Oh, nice Contaminate! Drops his trousers and hits that hot liquid all over that Evo chamber. Damn, that's going to delay that one a little bit. Clean up in Isle Evo chamber. Roaches and Hydras are starting to move forwards. You can see Serral's built a handful more workers, but he has got a slightly larger army. Problem for him, the mutas aren't going to be useful in a direct fight. They need to go around and pick off overlords, drones, all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, Reynor coming forward with a giant attack. Serral's going to try to go Bane speed, which is a great answer to the Hydras. It's not cost efficient, but it's super supply efficient. The Roaches and the Ravagers going to do great. Mutas are trying to work on the assimilator in the back. Big army posturing forward. Serral does a great job of maintaining position so far. The Biles are going to be quite frightening. Yeah, that's going to make it hard. Big roach attack on the right side lures Serral out of position, though. This allows Reynor to commit in, and I think Serral didn't do the best job of splitting his army up. Oh, Reynor with the movement, picking Serral apart. Gets in on top of that third base. Serral trying to regather up on that left side. Over on the right side, Serral, it looks like he's actually pulled too many roaches back to the left now. Reynor with his movement, opening up some beautiful attack angles. Serral, will he defend this base, though? With the roaches popping out into the fight, that's good. Reynor will not let a single corrosive bile land, though. He's dodging them so very well. The Mutalisks trying to intercept the rally point, but they're not really getting much damage done. Serral needs those mutas to get on top of these roaches, and it looks like they will at least harry them on the retreat a little bit. He's going to pick off that Hydralisk and 1 or 2 more roaches. Serral did lose 10 workers, though. This base, bare bones. That base did get heavily damaged. And Reynor's still up on 75 workers. He's going Hive. He's going to get Tunneling Claws for the next step, which is a very fancy piece of harassment. If the mutas are still here, though, they will notice the upgrade finishing because they're going to see, look at this from Serral's vision. There's a whole bunch of claws that are going to pop out on the back of these roaches. That there is very visually distinctive. He needs to realize what's happening. The question is, does Serral? Yeah, he's got to realize that. So he's going to start morphing Overseers, no doubt. He's already got one with his army. He's making a second one. And he's going to try and stop these roaches from getting inside his base. But that's more of a distraction than anything else. Reynor's going to shove the left side while splitting roaches on the right side. Serral is, of course, maxed. He has a giant army, but he's way behind on the tech, and he's down on the workers. Serral needs a really good fight right now. Look at that, though. That's looking pretty nice. Does catch some of those guys. His own roach run by doesn't find the best angle. Oh, he gets a good fight over here. For once, it's Reynor who's a little bit slow on the pulling the trigger there. The queen does go down in this base. Those roaches are going to escape. Looks like the roach run by went down. That roach run by went down. So both players' roach run bys fall. The Mutalisks get gunned down by the Hydra rally. Reynor's still pushing hard on the left side. And on the right side, 2 roaches ready to pop up and do even more worker damage. 59 workers to 73. The one thing Reynor's got to be worried about is he's over-droning. He's building workers against a guy who's already up in army supply. If Reynor loses a battle, the counter swing is going to be so deadly. Serral has just such a vast army, and he's making 21 Banelings right now as well. He wants to get big connections with those Banelings. Reynor has got to be careful. This is actually, it looks like a decent angle for him, but it could turn south so quickly. Roaches unburrowing on that base. 4 roaches split off. Serral very quick with the split. The Banelings are going to just jump on forwards, allowing Serral with his vast army supply to get an incredible fight. The Banelings might not be hitting that well, but by spreading against the Banelings, you allow Serral's roaches to do sick damage. Is this enough? Can Reynor remax in time? Reynor needs to get home, and he needs to have lava. He doesn't have any lava! Oh my god, he's been missing some injects. Reynor needs to be careful. He's got to remax. Serral needs to counter shove. I'm surprised Serral is not chasing right now. He's got to go, but these roach run-bys pull him home, and even a single second of him being pulled is so irritating and annoying for him. He's still up 20 army supply. He's got a giant roach army. Lurker Den's on the way. 3-2 double upgrades are on the way for Reynor. Reynor has all the tech in the world. Every second that goes by is a disaster for Serral. He needs to go win the game, and he needs to do it very quickly. This is not going to be getting any better for him. But Reynor's still sending a 4 roach run by down the right side. Is that maybe a little bit cavalier? He really needs to double down on his defense in this scenario. He lets Serral get position, and Serral's roaches and ravagers running forward. A beautiful line of biles, but actually he eats a few of his own biles. Does get 12 workers, 4 roaches on the backside for Reynor. Going to try and distract him, but Serral's quick there. Does split his army off and defend. Serral gets a big kill on this base. Remember what I said? Reynor's got to be careful about the army size. Reynor running up this ramp is a disaster waiting to happen. The roaches on the left side do get cleaned up by Reynor. At the same time, Serral's going to go for the bust, is pushing into this choke point too much. It feels like Serral has a big army, but Reynor has a very good position. He's got equal upgrades right now for both sides. The +3-2 is about to finish, but not until after the fight's over. Despite that, Reynor had the defensive position, and that was good enough. His roach burrow on burrow micro on Serral's 4th base is splendid. Serral scrambling back. Remember that Serral has been on an inferior economy for so long, and after that fight traded out pretty evenly. It's a massive win for Reynor. Reynor trading evenly is so good against Serral right now. Serral gets a great roach run by there. He's struggling to deal with these roaches on the backside because he just doesn't have an overseer. Finally, he's got an overseer and some roaches to deal with it. Despite that, Reynor's still able to slip out of his grasp. Serral, his roach run by trying to escape. Reynor's on top of it, though. He's not going to be letting those units get out. And Reynor is still picking off even more workers in the main base. Oh, this is so frustrating for him to deal with. Serral does manage to dodge Reynor's biles. He's chasing that army off. He actually catches a whole pack of roaches on the left side. Serral is still dangerous. He might be on a budget, but he's getting very good engagements. Uh-oh, he's just outnumbered here, though. He's sent way too many roaches to the bottom right. Even though he wins that that fight. He's giving up control of his third base. His third gets killed. Oh, this is not good for Serral. I think Reynor might just have been too ahead on the economy for too long. He's able to reinforce with these roaches. You can see the even trading we talked about. It's going to massively favor Reynor in this game. Serral's trying to catch some of these roaches on the way home, but he's down 50 supply. And Reynor has been far ahead on the economy for a long time. Serral tried to utilize the army supply advantage he had because he had less workers. But that is a move which you tire out very quickly. It's, you know, basically Serral was running a sprint in that scenario. Reynor, much more set up for the long haul. He was always, if he could just survive and not get knocked out by that one punch, he was always going to be in the better position. Muta's trying to find some drones in the top left. They grab a drone, going to go for a second one. Nice split on the Mutas there by Serral. The Hydra does chase them off. 3-2 upgrades for Reynor. So he's got far better units. He's got a Viper, 2 Vipers coming out. He's got Hydras in the back and just more numbers as well. Up 30 army supply. The only way Serral wins this is if Reynor walks into the worst corrosive biles ever. So you can see Serral's trying to get in between him and a base so we can force him to like walk through the corrosive bile. Problem is there's not even many roaches in front of these Ravagers for Serral. This is such a low-tech army that relies on one of the least reliable forms of spellcasting. He does start biling down, gets rid of one of the lurkers, at least by making it unburrow, but he's not able to actually get much more. Oh, abducting the Ravagers even. Reynor, he's just being very careful. He doesn't want to take a bad fight into those biles. Nice positioning by Serral, I gotta say. But a roach run by pops up behind it, and even more drones going down. Serral unable to take down that army, and Reynor ties up the series. Tying up the series there. Nice comeback in that game. Some very stellar play. That fake roach push, man, it's just the secret to his success on any small map. Does that little roach zergling pressure. It's such a small number of units. And yet he so consistently builds a lead off it. This is Reynor in the bottom right. His opponent on the left side, Serral. You can see Serral prioritizing minerals over gas. So he's only rallying onto the gas, which means his link speed will be a little bit later. Whereas Reynor here does rally onto the gas, straight off the minerals onto the gas, and then has to just replace the minerals. So Serral's going to have a slightly bigger mineral count, just a tiny bit more, you know, speed up on his queens, maybe his third base, that sort of stuff. Whereas Reynor's going to have that link speed just a few seconds quicker. It's a very big map data C, and a map where we do see a lot of big macro games come about. ZERG vs. ZERG, though. I know for Serral, he says, okay, if you're going to play Mutas, you know, on a big map like you did on Cosmic, I've got to be ready for that. So if Serral gets wind and thinks that's happening, he may play Corruptors again, or he may actually go for like a Nidus Roach attack. Used to be his favorite way of killing it, was just Nidus Queen Roach. Right now, he's pulled one worker off gas after starting link speed, as has Reynor. Reynor's moving out to take a third base, as is Serral. They're both sending 2 Zerglings across the map. Serral's third should be down a second earlier. Look at that. That's that mineral lead that he has. Now, Reynor's been winning the skirmishes in the middle of the map. This time around, it looks like they traded evenly. Both Zerglings pulling back without actually losing anyone. These 2 Zerglings are a little spread for Serral. He's got to be careful. Doesn't want to split those up too much when it comes to the skirmish. Serral's just going to back off with those guys. And Reynor, he's a cheeky little bugger, man. Both sides go for a Baneley nest there. Part of their wall off. And, ooh, Reynor. Once again, looking for these kills, but Serral not letting him get it this time. Neither player has put back on gas just yet. Serral's rallied that egg back to gas. Reynor has forgotten to. Usually you'd put it back no later than about 3 minutes here. It's actually going to give you a lot of flexibility in the next stage. But Reynor, much like Dark, is a very fluid player. I think he's a little bit less consistent sometimes. Speaking of which, he's forgotten his 36 Overlord. He builds an Evo chamber so he can at least build one more drone there. But, oh, that's a big supply block, man. 36 supply block is really bad. I mean, I was actually talking about inconsistency in regards to a completely different part of the build order. I did not realize until I was halfway through it that he'd gotten supply block. That's just puts him behind a bunch of workers and a little bit slower on some of these pieces of the puzzle. The funny thing is Serral's built 12 lings for safety and he's just sitting them there. Meanwhile, Reynor is like, oh, I messed up and got supply blocked. I'm going to defend with just 4 Zerglings. 2 scouting lings, 4 defensive lings. Now, the downside of this is it lets Serral scout everything that's happening. The upside is he's up a bunch of workers. So Reynor's mistake actually has led him to play a bit greedier. He's gotten away with it completely because Serral is such a defensive player. And this is an issue for Serral in their matchup. He always comes out of the blocks hot, looks really good, almost always wins the first game. If you look at their history, he almost always wins the first game of their series. But Reynor gets slippery, he gets tricky, he has a lot of variability. And Serral is anything but unpredictable in these early stages. You get him past the 5-minute mark, 5:30. Yes, he might hit you with a big Roach attack. He might hit you with a Nidus. He might hit you with a Roach Corruptor timing. But at the very start, he's much more stable and consistent. Serral is still up a couple of workers here, so not too bad. Reynor looks like he's just scouting around, wants to keep seeing the saturation count on that base potentially. That's what this is all about. He says, hey, are you droning that third? And he sees a lot of drones for Serral on the third. So Reynor's pretty confident on that. Baneling accidentally gets set off. A little unfortunate for Serral. Serral's going up in that worker count. And yeah, it seems like both sides are pretty evenly matched. And they're both getting full scout off as well. Neither side tried to hide the Roach Warren because you really need that Roach Warren in the wall on this wider ramp map. One of the very important details we saw in some of those earlier maps was the Roach Warrens being hidden in the back, because the players were able to wall off with less structures, but not in this case. Oh, Spire goes down. Now, the crazy thing about that Spire placement is the Ling can see that literally from the front. If a Ling runs to there, it can see that Spire. And that Overlord is so dangerously close to it as well. But it's Reynor, man. He doesn't give a crap. He's got the Roach Warren in sight. He's doing nothing but building Zerglings. He is building +1 and Roach speed. I mean, Reynor, I don't know, dude. Serral drops the Spire as well as Overlord speed. So he's maybe thinking about going either Mutas or Corruptors himself as well. I think definitely what we're seeing here is two players who think a straight up Roach attack is not a good way of winning on such a big map. I think they're both saying, yeah, it's kind of weak. It's too easy for them to stop, even if they're a bit greedy. On this map, there's just too long a rush distance. These guys are too good. Let's go for the Spire tech. And that can work out well. It can also backfire in some scenarios. Baneling running forward. Watch out, Reynor! Reynor! Oh! I feel like Serral could have manually detonated that and got a very good hit. Reynor does back off with the Ling Bane, avoids disaster. Oh, Speedy Overseer comes in. Ain't no one gonna stop this this Gonzalez Overlord or Overseer from seeing absolutely everything. Unless you got like 4 queens right underneath it. There we go. And that's it. Spire finishing up over there. Overseer's gonna go back around the top side. 6 mutas are on the way for Reynor. Serral, do we answer with mutas of our own? Because the thing is, Reynor doesn't know. Reynor doesn't know about the Spire. This is what Reynor does sometimes. He's so focused on, I'm the sneaky one getting mutas out, I don't even need to think about what you're doing, because I know you're Serral. You're playing Roaches. And instead, look at this. +1 carapace, 8 mutas of his own. Perfect play by Serral. He's going to just go for a muta war. Whereas Reynor's already back into Roach production. He thinks, cool, I've got the air advantage. You're going to be building Queens, Infestors, maybe Hydras, maybe going for Lurkers. Reynor right now is playing with assumptions in mind. Serral is not a man who plays with assumptions, and this is the difference between these players. I make fun of, or not make fun of, but I analyze Serral as being, sometimes a little bit more weaker mentally. Part of the reason is because Reynor literally gambles and is so comfortable being in a crazy gambling situation. And sometimes being a crazy gambler rather than an elite scouter gets you in trouble. And this is a perfect example of that scenario. Serral lets the mutas escape. I gotta be critical of that. He could have cornered at least a few of those Mutalisks. That was a weird choice by Serral, who's now splitting his mutas up. What in the heck? I guess he's going after Overlords. Oh, okay. He's just trying to hunt down the Overlords. Fair enough, fair enough. Not too bad a move by any means. Ling's going to try to run in for Reynor. Reynor's got a massive Roaches on the ground. 25 Roaches versus 11. Serral's actually going to go back into Roaches. Wait, what? Serral's not continuing on the muta tech? But Reynor's going to catch up on mutas. Serral is misreading this. He doesn't think that Reynor's going to try to catch up on mutas. So he thinks Reynor's going to turtle up with Spore Queen and try to go into like Roach, Lurker, that sort of stuff. And now he goes back into mutas. What is Serral doing? Serral's playing a weird style right now. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's weird and I'm confused about his intentions. He just built another extra pack of Roaches. When you're in a muta war, all that matters is the muta count. But he's given up a fair bit of that muta advantage. And yet now Reynor is also going back into Hydras. This is such a weird situation. The fact that Reynor got baited into building so many mutas but still has less means that's really not great. But now Serral's going back into mass muta Roach. It looks like he's just going to go all in with this. I mean, if the mutas can get in between the rally points, that'll be great, but Spores and Queens are so good. They are so good in this scenario. I think for Reynor, getting out a few Infestors would be amazing to counteract the mutas. Realistically, though, Hive, Lurkers, Vipers is usually the answer. Lurkers wreck Roaches, Vipers wreck mutas. It's a long way away, though. His Infestation Pit's just started. The question is, can Reynor survive? Serral has not added a lot of drones or a lot of tech. The mutas are coming on in, and of course, Serral is far ahead on that muta count. That Spore Crawler, though, is deadly. Look at how much damage that Spore does. 30 damage a shot to these Mutt-Mutts. I mean, if he just runs in and focuses it, Serral could win that fight and potentially win the game right here. But he's got to be careful. He's trying to micro in and out. His roaches are getting overrun, are Serral's. He's coming in. We've got to see that these extra roaches that he committed to were not the right call. He's going to finally click on the Spore Crawler, and he does still have that massive Mutalisk advantage. I mean, he can just click on this Spore as well. I don't think Serral needs to play this so carefully. He goes for an Overlord in the main. He is taking some real damage here. Oh, he's trying to pull back weak Mutas as well. Loses one Muta there, but gets rid of the Spore. There's not many more Spores in the main. This opens up a fierce angle. Muta's going to counterattack for Reynor. Reynor going to go across. There's no Spores there. He's in a desperate position, and he says, well, I've got to do something. I might as well just run in and try to take out these units. The problem is if he gets cornered on the map, he's going to try and escape, and that is dangerous. If Serral just goes straight north, there is no escape for this. But Serral lets him escape. Serral is once again more focused on defending his main than on catching the enemy Mutas, and he lets them escape, and that is a big misstep for Serral. If Serral gives up this game, that's going to be it. It's because Serral knows that Reynor is a big crazy risk taker, and he thinks maybe he'll just hide on the edge of the map and then fly into the main and kill all my drones. I can't risk that. And because of that, he does let the Mutas escape, but for how long? He gets on top of them now! Oh, Raider's in big trouble! Infestors are popping, Lurkers are popping, they're not here just yet, though. Oh, he does get out there with some of them. The Muta count 30 to 10. The Mutas of Reynor are basically out of the game at this point in terms of their efficacy. Hive is not done for Reynor, though. He's got a lot of Roaches, he's got one Lurker, he's got 4 Infestors. He's only got 1 Queen, does Reynor. Reynor's still going around picking off Overlords, trying to threaten the run-bys. Cool moves for him. But Serral is now forced to go towards Lurkers. Now, Serral, he has gotten better at his Lurker transition after playing Mutas. There was a period when he first learnt this style where he absolutely was appallingly bad at it. Oh! Reynor with the big chain fungal! One more does chain it down. The Hydra's making mincemeat. Oh, no! Serral goes too deep, and he absolutely... Oh, man. I mean, that main base, you know... much like a hole in the wall of a public bathroom stall. If there's a hole in there, do not stick your hand through that. Do not put your ear up to it. Scary Movie taught us this. Serral learning that lesson the hard way. The Roaches and the Lurkers trying to morph for him, but Reynor's already got position on the 5th base. He could deny it. The Muta's coming forward, but I actually think Reynor's got the Muta advantage now. Can you believe it? Serral's gonna have to get his Queens forward. He's trying to transfuse his Mutas. He loses his 5th base. What is going on in this game? This is absolute madness. The Roach Ravager trying to hang out. They do manage to bile down one of Reynor's Lurkers. Reynor's got such sick upgrades on the way. He's once again got those 3-2 upgrades. He doesn't have many Lurkers though, so is this push a bit too cavalier for Reynor? Reynor maybe should just wait for the Lurker upgrades to come in. He's got more Lurkers. 4 more Lurkers just arrived. Oh my god. This is so bad for Serral. If those Lurkers get in range of the hatchery, and they're already almost there, Lurker range is going to finish in about 15 seconds. More units rallying in. Okay, it is just Infestors, and they're very low on energy. Great micro by Serral so far, but the moment he steps forward, those Lurker spines. Oh my god, those Lurker spines are ravaging his Roach Hydra army. Great dodge on one of those, and Serral has to tap out. Oh no. Oh my lord, what the heck? That game is something we have to rewind and do some analysis of, because the mind games, the mental game on both sides was bizarre. This was a game, and I've played games like this on ladder when I can't get a read on my opponent, and you feel like nothing they're doing makes sense. And as a result, all your moves are a little bit wrong. And it all started here. I think Serral was in a great position. So remember, leading up into this first Muta exchange, Reynor, really bad scouting. C-tier scouting. He's sending an Overseer into scout 2 seconds ahead of his Mutalisks flying in. Like, his Mutas are already on their way across the map at 7 minutes. And so as a result, Serral's already got +1 armor, which is an amazing upgrade for Muta versus Muta interactions. And he's going up to 12 Mutas versus a guy who's got 6 and is spending all his gas on Roaches. This is massive, because this means Reynor is spending all his gas on Roach upgrades, Roaches, which aren't going to help the Muta fight. Serral should be able to dominate the skies and get way ahead. Now from here, he should take a 5th base, drone a little bit more potentially, but basically just keep massing Mutas and just clean the map up of Overlords, push in, and just try to win the Muta war, while maybe doing some Zergling run-bys as well. Serral gets given one of the biggest gifts I've ever seen here, which is, of course, like we said, Reynor not realizing, and Serral gets to come in with a superior Muta count from behind. And you got to look at this from Reynor's perspective. He needs to fly back to the right side of the map. Because Mutas can almost flawlessly move and shoot, they barely need to stop to shoot. These guys are both playing on the EU server from within Europe. They've got very low ping. You can't escape here. As long as Serral just moves with you, you're going to hit the edge of the map if you go left. If you go north, you're going to hit the corner. If you go down, you're going to run through Queens. Also hit the corner of the map. So Serral should kill at least 4 or 5 Mutalisks here. This is such a bad spot for Reynor. But let's watch this from Serral's camera and watch what he prioritizes. So he turns around here to kill an Overseer. Goes back, does some injects, builds some more units. He builds a Spore Crawler. And then he goes Overlord hunting. I don't know if he's worried that if he runs to the top left, a Roach attack will kill him. I mean, he is outnumbered on the Roaches for sure. I think that's what it is. I think Serral at this point was worried that there was 20, 30 Roaches running across. He only had 10 Roaches of his own. And that's why he both sends his Mutas to clean up Overlords and also so that they'll be in position to stop the Roach attack coming. But not only does he do that, he also builds 10 more Roaches of his own, which is not the right tech. He should be just... Imagine if he goes for 10 more Mutas. I mean, he doesn't have enough gas, but, you know, say it's four more Mutalisks in terms of gas count. That's a game changer. This is a massive, massive, huge thing. And instead, he lets the Mutas escape. Yes, he gets the Overlords, which is nice. But I think this is a huge missed opportunity. And basically lets those Mutas escape. So that's the first big one where I think Serral screwed up, but there was another big mistake later as well. So at this point, he goes back into Mass Mutalisk. I also would have liked to see +1 air attacks here since he's committing so hard to the Mutaling. And let's just fast forward a little bit. So this attack, I think he could have just clicked on the Spore Crawler at the start of that fight with his Mutas and just won the game. Because he's got like 30 Mutas versus 15. And instead, he's still getting hit by the Spore a lot and getting good dudes picked off. But he gives Reynor time to kind of win the Roach fight decisively. And he just lets these Spores and Queens do way more damage than he should. So I think Serral was just a little bit afraid to commit there. I understand why, because he's kind of like, oh, okay, it's hard to judge how many Mutas there are in that flock of Reynor. You don't really know at first glance how far ahead you are. I get that. But look at this. Reynor threatens him. Serral's about to kill his main base. And honestly, he could have and just given up a base and been okay with it. But instead he flies home. Also a valid call. Let's take a look at how this one went. I feel like he let these Mutas escape as well, right? His Mutas should be going to the top right. Why has he not caught those Mutas? And once again, he just goes looking through the edge. This is just bizarre Muta movement for me. To let Reynor's Mutas escape a second time, I think is a huge mistake. And he ends up getting on top of them anyway, because he gets a bit lucky. But yeah, definitely a big issue for him. Now, because there's mass Hydras out on the ground with 2-1 upgrades, he's missed his timing where Mutas can really get it done. And you can tell that Serral's a bit confused about what to do with this army. He starts making Baneling speed, like, okay, I'll do a big Roach Bane attack to finish it. But then he also says, okay, I'm going to get a second Evo and tech towards Lurkers. And of course, we do see the big mistake. He'd already seen Infestors were out in this game. So this was just an example of him going way too deep here. He groups up and fights that Spore Crawler. I get he didn't want to fight 2 Spores at once, but he absolutely could have if he chose to. And that Fungal there from Reynor is an absolute killer. He actually threw one forwards as well in case Serral didn't turn back. And then he gets the extra 2. And this was just a beautiful maneuver. But definitely one where Reynor has this just amazing ability to win games, which in my mind, he was massively behind. Committing to a handful of Mutas and then back into Roaches versus a guy who knows that the Muta war is on. This was such a disadvantage at the 7-minute mark for Reynor. Reynor did a great job of running around the map, hiding his Mutalisks, buying time, distracting, and transitioning in a very kind of weird, messy situation where you're kind of on Mutas, you're kind of on Roaches, Hydras, Lurkers. It was a weird mishmash situation, but a situation where I think Reynor's mental flexibility and his ability to just roll with the punches and kind of find a way through and feel his way through the game pays off huge in a game like this. So really well played by Reynor. This very well could have been a 2-1 lead for Serral. He was way better in the scouting and the early game setup stage, but Reynor is a slippery one, man. He's hard to put down. All right, well, he manages to pull that game out of his magic bloody wizard's hat like he does so often. Bottom left side of the map, it's Kaisi Gaming's Reynor. Up against in the top right, NC Sports, Serral. Don't know why we don't have clan tags on this. I think because it's probably because it's loaded from an older version now, this replay. Because we don't even have the little faces hovering next to the bases or anything. Either way, it is going to be hatchery first for both sides. You can see them both kind of moving on down here. And, well, Hold on a second, guys. Really? I can't even change hotkeys? Okay. And resuming. Alright, I'm gonna have to go Control F. We're stuck with the standard hotkey setup right now for some reason. It is what it is. See the gas going down just ever so slightly later for Serral there. No big difference between the build orders. I feel like Serral played the last game so well up to the 7-minute mark, and then just a little bit too paranoid. You know, even if Reynor was coming across, I really feel that game comes down to that 7-minute mark decision to not hunt the mutas down, and from there he was just way too indecisive because he had the game gift wrapped for him at that point. I mean, he'd set it up, so it wasn't really gift wrapped. He'd earned himself a massive advantage in that game, and then he let it slip away. So what if the Roach attack came through the middle of the map against his mutas? I don't think it's a big issue. I think he's fine. I think he's totally fine to pull his mutas over, scramble and run some drones away. Maybe he loses his 3rd base, hatchery, but he's got his 4th mining and he's got 30 mutas in the sky up against a guy who's just thrown his Roach army away for a hatchery and a few units. So I kind of feel like Serral just basically played a bit too afraid of Reynor's Roach attack on the ground, and I mean, he really should not have been. He should have been very confident in that scenario, and that's what I talk about with him kind of, he overestimates things. I think it's because he finds it very hard to get in Reynor's head, because Reynor purposefully stays unpredictable in that series, and as a result, Serral sometimes mind games himself trying to furiously rack his brain for every possible option that Reynor could go for. Reynor, on the other hand, he plays mutas in that last game. He's not even bothering to scout. He's just assuming that Serral's playing a standard Roach game. Doesn't even scout. Gets in a bad position, but there's something about the fact that he's so chilled out in that scenario that's the special sauce to Reynor's success. So he does win that Ling duel by, of course, getting a bit more of a spread of damage, which means his guys will regen a little bit faster. 3rd hatchery on the way for both sides. 4 more Zerglings on the way for Reynor already, though. That makes me think Reynor might be going very aggressive here. Keep an eye on that production tab. More Zerglings coming out. Okay, Reynor's going to take the Ling Bane aggression to Serral. Wait, actually, no Baneling aggression. Oh, no Baneling nest. Okay, so Reynor's just going to go for a Ling Flood. He's going to go for about 15, maybe 20 Lings. Try to cancel this 3rd base if possible. Oh, but he goes a bit too hard there, and Serral does win that trade. Nonetheless, he lost 2 Zerglings on Reynor's side of the map, so Reynor still comes out on top overall. 10 Zerglings and a Baneling nest are on the way. The moment Link Speed finishes, you know, Reynor's diving across this map. Time to go, go, go. There we go. Serral sees it moving out there towards his side of the map. His Queen's going to move forward, as will some Zerglings. He needs to morph some Baney Banes. He's going to try and morph them there up against the edge of the terrain where they can't really be surrounded too easily. Wants him to be close to that 3rd hatchery. He doesn't want to lose that bad boy. Look at this. Reynor's already planning a run by into the main. Oh, Serral perfectly positioned. Shuts that one down. And the 3rd base is in trouble as well. Now, those 4 Lings will still run into the main. These Lings going to try and get a decent angle, and they do for Reynor. But then the Banelings and the Queen come in, and that is beautifully done. Serral splitting off just the right number of Zerglings. That 1 Ling takes one for the team, allows the other 3 Lings to get on in. Fancy micro there for Reynor. Serral, though, only loses a single drone. And look at that, man. Serral, he's just absolutely smashing. Does hold on, gets himself a nice little lead. 2nd gas and an Evo chamber going down for Reynor. He's still building a few more Zerglings. He's thinking about keeping up the aggression. The reason is he skipped the Baneling nest. If you skip the Baneling nest, you cannot let up the aggression, because if you do, he's going to get in control of this game. Now, funnily enough, Reynor's still massing Zerglings right now. So Reynor is actually going to go for another wave of Ling Flood. There's only 1 Baneling. If he can get rid of that Baneling, that would be huge. Zerglings going after the drones. The Baneling does get picked off for just 2 Zerglings there. Very nicely done. The rest of the Ling Flood should come out, but oh man, that's a lot of Zerglings for Reynor to be losing to not even get the Queen kill. He's going Masslings. He's morphing 2 Banelings of his own. He did build a Baneling nest. Oh, so he did, didn't he? Okay, he's just going to go for it. Crazy Ling Bane attack coming out. Unfortunately for him, there's 9, 10 Roaches about to pop for Serral. Serral morphs 4 Banelings. No, that's Reynor. Sorry, he morphs 2 Banelings. Instantly does Serral. If Serral can get a few more Banelings up, he should be able to shut this one down. Roaches coming out. Reynor's going to feel his heart sink right now. Those Roaches already get one of his Banes down. Serral's got 2 Banes, a pack of Roaches, and Reynor needs to somehow avoid the Banelings of Serral and find a good engagement. I don't know how the hell he's supposed to do that, because unlike the unconfidence in the last game, Serral is looking extremely confident, shoving through the middle of the map. He's got mass Zerglings about to pop as well, so even with the Ling run by trying to buy time. Oh! Ling Bane for Reynor finds a bit of a surround, but the Banelings for Serral go off with some big boomies. And a few of those low hit point Roaches do get healed. Reynor's Ling run by gets cleaned up by the Queen and the Zerglings back in his main base. Roaches and Ravagers shoving forwards on the front. A few more of these Roaches are very low. Serral would like to heal them up, but he doesn't really have the gas to do so. And Serral is going to shove on towards that third base, taking out these Lings as they pop out, waiting for some more Banes. He could shove forward. It's just Queens and Banelings. This is not what you need to defend. Reynor went hard on the Ling Bane aggression this game, and I think we see why we don't see it very much out of these two guys. It's because they are so damn good at defending it. Serral shuts that one down and ties the series up at 2-2. Right, this bloody whole series is about to get rounded out on Stargazers. I cannot wait to see how it goes. In the top left, we've got Reynor. That last game, it fell flat. The aggression did not work out for him, but I like the idea of swinging out with that. A bit of a surprising one. Serral in the top right side. And that's, you know, I feel like games like that last one make Serral even more paranoid about his opponent, because he's like, in Serral's mind, that is a trash build that Reynor just tried to do to him. He's like, are you serious? When does that ever work? He's like, what are you, this is so stupid, Reynor. Why are you trying to do these dumb builds on me? But that's what scares Serral, is because he can't count on Reynor only doing what they consider the good builds. Reynor will just throw something at him and see if it sticks. And that is something which I think gets inside Serral's head a little bit. I think there's something we all have as StarCraft players when our opponents take what we consider an unfeasible risk, like a silly risk, where we're like, that can't be the best decision here. But it adds that element to unpredictability. And there's a psychological impact there where, yes, you can play the cleanest, best StarCraft ever. You can play the most clean build orders, the most optimal macro. And if you're predictable as all hell, it doesn't matter, because your opponents are always 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, countering what you're doing off the smallest reads. And that's a big issue. That's a big issue, is, you know, thinking about things in terms of like, wait a second. Wait. If I, you know, am just able to counter you minutes ahead, like, I just get, it's easy. StarCraft is so easy. It doesn't matter how perfectly you play the game if you don't play the opponent as well. Feinting is important, you know, showing your opponent things and then going in a different direction. And that's going to be really interesting to see how this final game plays out, because it's a big macro map. It's hard to kill each other. It's a great map for mutas. It's a pretty long push path. You do get this kind of very easy to defend from the ground interior base, but you've got to mine the minerals out for it. I don't know if either player is going to bother with it, as they both seem to have gone gas. I know when this map and Moondance first came out, everyone was mining these minerals out and going for a really quick third hatchery and doing gasless 3-base plays. That seems to have filtered out a little bit. Ling speed is up faster for Serral right now. And it looks like Reynor's going to go out. Yeah, they're both just going to go out and take third bases. Reynor's been favoring that 30 supply third hatchery, whereas Serral has more often been going 32, but he goes 30 as well, just a little bit later than his opponent. Ling speed is, of course, very delayed for Reynor. So Reynor's playing weird right now, guys. That is such a late Ling speed. My God. Is he going to go Baneling Nest without Ling speed? Okay, so Reynor is basically just skipping Ling speed, getting the normal Baneling Nest time. He's just going to play purely defensive. He's like, yeah, don't need Zerglings. It's fine. Serral's not even very good at being aggressive with Lings. And you know why he's not good at it? Because he never does it. I'm sure he would be good if he actually practiced it, but he doesn't. He doesn't execute Ling Bane aggression. He thinks it's bad. And that last game shows us why. He's very good at slapping it down himself. He expects Reynor to be just as good at slapping it down. But Serral's making safety Zerglings. Remember, Serral very regularly will make like 12, 14 Zerglings and just sit at home with them. He won't even poke. He might not even realize that Ling speed's not finished for Reynor, especially if this Zergling dies. There's an advantage to getting in your opponent's face. It gives you a lot of information. Look, he's even making a Baneling. Just how safe Serral's playing here. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Reynor's like, hey, saved 100 minerals, saved 100 gas. Look at me. Very smooth opening for the Italian Stallion. The 4th Queen is going to pop out in a moment as well. Very similar worker counts. Reynor just up about 2 workers so far. Serral does go for the faster lair and 2nd gas. And that makes me think he wants to play Mutt-Mutts. So we might actually see mutas from Serral here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a melee upgrade come down, actually. He's not at 100 gas just yet. We'll check in on that Evo chamber soon. Roach Warren goes down for Reynor. Not the best Roach Warren positioning. That's a giant gap. Lings might be able to slip by that Queen. +1 range for Reynor. +1 range for Serral a few seconds later. About a 20-second lead on the lair. Reynor's lair just starting up now. Reynor's way ahead on the workers, though. My god, that fast lair and gas. Serral's floating a bit of lava. He doesn't have the minerals to really spend it all right now. Serral is actually so far down on the drones. Reynor has been so greedy, and Serral only now poking with these Zerglings. Dude, this is actually such a greedy opening. He's gotten away with it. He's got a few queens, a slow baneling, 3 slow Zerglings. Serral's down 12 workers right now, and he's building 9 roaches. But wait. But he's got a lair and 4 gas. This is not a good situation to do a roach timing. Serral, what are you doing? Are you going Nidus? What? He wants to Nidus him? Oh, Serral's cancelled +1 range. He's going to do a no roach speed Nidus worm. Oh, but the thing is, he thinks it's mutas because he sees this greed. He thinks, oh, you're going mutas, aren't you? But if Reynor just builds roaches, he'll be fine. He's up 17 workers right now. Serral pulling the trigger on this. This is a very, I mean, it's a tight all-in. And Reynor's up on 66 workers. But he was so far ahead for so long that he's actually building roaches. So he's down about 10 roach. Oh, no, he's building more drones. And a spire? And a spire? Oh, Reynor! You greedy boy! There's greed and lack of scouting, and then there's this game, guys. Reynor has 0 scouting because he skipped ling speed. He's not even sending in an overlord or anything. He has no idea what's going on till right now. Nidus Worm in vision of his overlord. There is 17 roaches about to pop out. Serral is massing roaches. No roach speed, no +1. This is a gigantic all-in. Reynor holding down the roach key here. He was way ahead in the early game economy, but by golly, is he shocked by this giant flood of roach queen getting inside the main base. Serral with epic decisiveness committing here, looking to punish Reynor's greedy build order. Reynor pulling back on the ramp. He doesn't want to get stuck on that ramp, but he is massively outnumbered. The drones have to get pulled. He can lose 15 drones and still hold. But oh my god, the biles! Landing on a queen and a roach, not too bad. Serral with some pretty good positioning. He needs more roaches here though. He's already down in army supply. No, he's up 10 army supply. Sorry, misread that one. The spine crawl is going to finish in that mineral line. Serral needed to focus that one down. He's got to get back in charge of the ramp. He does focus the Ravager. A big bile lands. So many roaches popping out for Reynor right now. A few roaches waddling in from the south side. He popped those out there, but that means he's losing the fight inside the main base. Remember, with no roach speed, these are not particularly agile roaches for Serral. Now, Serral's only down 6 workers, and he starts +1 range, which tells us he is thinking about playing a longer, slower game right now. He's doing the old in and out in the main base, something which the young stallion Reynor knows all about, of course. Serral, let's see if he is indeed the ladies' man that knows about how to do this maneuver. He's going to try and pop one up in the north side where Reynor can't see it. Does focus down Reynor's third. I wouldn't mind him building one big round of drones behind this. Let's see if Serral can do it. He's going roach speed +1. He's building 2 more queens because he thinks, oh, you know, there could be a muta follow-up. The Spire did get cancelled, though. Reynor cancelled that to try to build as many roaches as he can. We've got this new 4th base finished up, so Reynor just transfers workers there. He's still up 5 workers. Very similar army counts. Similar roach speed timings. The Spire starts getting rebuilt here as well. Looks like that Overlord went down. This Nidus Worm gets shut down. It's a very close game. Serral's still going for it. Oh, he's trying to hide it, but you know what? Not quite able to do so. That will get taken down by these roaches and ravages. You've got to be careful throwing too much money away into these sorts of Nidus maneuvers. Serral droned up, but only a couple of workers. And he's going Spire. You know, this is the sort of situation where part of me says just keep going Roach Nidus and just try to kill him because Reynor's never going to expect it. And Reynor's scouting still is completely lacking. Reynor is happy to play blind Zerg versus Zerg. Serral pretty much never is. And once again, something that can get inside Serral's head. +2 attack is on the way for Reynor as well. He's got the upgrade advantage there. The worker advantage is the scarier thing right now. If Serral doesn't go and kill him, he's on 54 drones. He's trickling out workers, which is not bad. If you're ahead on workers, that's great. But when you're down 5 workers, soon to be 10 workers, that can be a big issue. And it's actually Reynor who's over here on the front starting to pressure him. Serral's +1 attack will finish up momentarily, but the mutas are going to come in. The first 3 mutalisks building for Reynor. He's going to get air control with those in the near future. Very similar army supplies, but Reynor's got the 10 worker advantage. He's rebuilding this base to take advantage of those 2 gases. Serral has not even started a 4th hatchery just yet. He's moving forwards with his roaches. He's going to look for a good fight, see what he can find. But as those mutas come out, Serral's going to be pushed off the map, and he's going to be just pressed with the question of how do you secure your 4th? He's got to spread this creep over here and try to get this 4th up. Is he just going to play Corruptors? He doesn't have the gas for it. I mean, his income's just real trash. Nice dodge for Reynor on that Overlord there. This Overlord will go down momentarily, though, unless he dodges very well. Muta's cleaning up the Overseer. Serral pulling back his Roach Ravager. He's building 7 of his own mutas. Reynor doesn't know that it's a muta war. Serral does. Similar advantage to what Reynor had on Data C. To what Serral had on Data C. Sorry, Reynor is playing blind, and he's gone back into Roach production. This is huge for Reynor. If Reynor can hide the mutas, get up enough, and then trap these mutas when they dive in. But he's got to try to pull off that trap. The problem for him right now is he's looking to show his mutas. He's not being coy. He's not being coy about this at all. He's just going to go out and hunt down the Overlords. Oh, I feel like the longer he waited to show this, the better this was. He loses an Overlord there. And you can see Reynor's already going to get these Overlords before pulling back. The Roaches are going to shove. Oh my god, that's a giant Roach shove. The mutas don't see it coming. Mutas come out for Serral. He's going to try and trap the mutas exactly like we talked about. But this time, Serral is even further behind than the last game, and the Roaches are going to get a good position. Serral shoves forward, dodges most of the piles. Where are the mutas, though? He needs them back here. 4th base in the bottom gets cancelled by the Roach run by. Mutas are coming back, but already the Roach count of Reynor is making its presence known, and he is doing some fantastic damage. The 3rd base worker line has to get evacuated. The Roach Ravager is doing massive damage for Reynor, but Serral has the mutas overhead, and they will end up winning this fight. Evo Chamber in the wall, just in case Reynor tried to run in, but oh no. The 3rd base is going to go down, and the mutas fly into the main at the same time. This is massive damage. Reynor's going to try and run his Roaches home, but Serral losing all the drones in their main, losing his 3rd base, and Reynor there with a spectacular hold, a greedy build. And you could tell Serral just was having none of it. He wanted to kill him, and it wasn't what he was planning from the start of this game. Otherwise, that Nidus would have hit much harder. But let's go back and look at it. Reynor wins the series 3-2 and goes to the upper bracket grand finals of the DreamHack Atlanta EU Regionals. So here we go, about 5 minutes. He's already committed to it at this point, actually. Let's go back a little bit earlier. So we're here on Serral Vision. He's going droney, droney, drone, but he's already down so many workers this whole early game. This is really something where if he did decide to do some Ling Bane pressure, it would have been kind of tricky for Reynor to defend it. And he could have droned hard behind it and probably denied a lot of mining on this base by just running Ling Bane in here. Reynor would have had to evacuate behind his natural wall. He wouldn't have lost the hatchery with just Banelings and Queens defending, but it would have been great. But that's why Serral is so defensive with his Zerglings somewhat predictably. So even though Serral tends to play very solid, doesn't matter how solid you play if you play predictably. We're talking about that at the start of this game, and I think that's really what Reynor looked to take advantage of. Now, Serral, at this point, he's just seen so many drones, and he immediately cancels +1, and I want to see what he saw. What was it that triggered this decision? Let's watch this from Serral's camera, okay? So guys, we're on Serral's camera. He's building a lair. He's going 4 gas. He's playing a macro game, and then he sees, I think he just sees so many drones on this 3rd. No, he sees a couple drones. Cancels +1, makes Roaches. Interesting. Maybe he was planning this from the start. This may have actually been Serral's plan from the very start. Interesting. I mean, he's already seen that there was no Ling speed a little bit earlier. So I think the no Ling speed is what triggered this decision to go for this all-in. What's crazy to me is that Reynor defends it with 68 workers, and that tells us that Serral definitely just needed to hit this a little bit faster if he wanted to pull this bad boy off. Just a little bit earlier on it, and maybe he could have done it, but I mean, Reynor, he gets +1. He doesn't have roach speed on the way. He's going for a 4th hatchery as well. I mean, the greed knows no bounds with this lad. Instantly cancels his Spire, builds more roaches, ravages, and just does everything he can to get up here in the main base and defend. And the Queen Roach comes forward, but without roach speed, it is hard to like force the fight to be as sudden. And things like the Biles actually were so good. And just look at Reynor's micro, pulling back on the left, pulling down the ramp, transfusing, pulling drones in after. So Serral kind of almost gets surrounded here, dropping Biles across him in the surround where it's really hard to dodge. And he keeps pulling back down this ramp and like pulling back on the left as well, just anything to buy time. And then he comes in here as this next round of roaches, and he says, okay, now it's time to fight because the spine's finishing and I got a ton of roaches. If I was Reynor, I would have pulled all those drones into fight here as well. But Reynor was so confident and he judged this just perfectly. Now, there's a question. What if the roaches all popped out in the main here? Could Serral have actually overwhelmed him? I don't think so because there's +1 here. So even if these roaches were popping out in the main, I mean, I think it could have beat these roaches, but I think with the roaches continuing to pop out for Reynor, the spine crawler maybe moving forward, it just looks like he played too clean of an opening. The skipping Ling speed, playing really greedy, it was a great way to play on such a big turtley defensive map, and he got a lead and was able to defend Serral's all-in because of it. Really well played by Reynor. It's crazy because there was so little scouting, but actually some very good build choices and some really good tricky play. Serral continues to be a very scouting-heavy player, but who knows, maybe if instead of focusing on scouting, he just beelined towards his Nidus all-in, it actually would have killed Reynor, just because he would have saved money on all of those Zerglings and Banelings and different things that he was using to poke and scout with. Maybe if he just beelined towards it blind, he'd be more efficient and actually win the game. It's not how Serral likes to play though. Reynor happy to play blind. Serral is not. Reynor comes out on top just barely in this one, 3-2.